Now, Eskom plans to spend at least 170 billion rand in a bid to maintain and restore its coal fleet. However, critics have called this a massive gamble, saying that the money would be better spent on new energy resources. Well, for more on this, we're joined now by Professor Sampson Mamphweli, Director of the Center for Renewable Energy and Sustainable Energy Studies at the Stellenbosch University. Prof, good morning to you. Where do you stand in this discussion, or should we call it a debate?
Good morning to you and the viewers. For me, I think it's a good sign. It's good that they have to spend that much money. And we just need to take viewers back a little bit to say the biggest problem that we're facing now that is causing load shedding is the fact that the energy availability factor of the coal fleet has fallen down quite significantly. So it has collapsed. And that has been happening since 2011. We had some time between 2016 and 2017 where it improved, and that was mainly because of the makeshift kind of maintenance that was done then. And that makeshift maintenance is now catching us up with us. That's why we have this relentless breakdown of the power systems, of the coal-fired power stations. And the president came in and then came up with his plan. And part of his plan was to try and push the energy availability factor back to above 72% or around 73%, so that we have enough kind of generation capacity available most of the time.
Yeah.
And what they're doing now is the implementation basically of the president's plan.
Professor, so you are firmly on the side that Eskom is correct to want to spend that much money maintaining and restoring the coal power plants. This obviously is in stark contrast to those who are arguing that the plan would only restore energy, and I want to quote here, it would only restore energy availability to 66% by 2025, and they're making their case that this money would be better spent on new energy sources. Are you still of this view that so much money should go towards restoring these coal fleets?
Yes, I still believe that even though we've got a number of initiatives that will bring in new generation capacity, mainly outside of Eskom through IPPs, in terms of our energy plan, the Integrated Resource Plan 2019, we're going to have to decommission some of these coal power stations. Yesterday, I just came from Komati power station that has been totally decommissioned. But we're still going to have about 30% of the contribution from coal up until 2030 and beyond. The integrated resource plan is currently being revised. We don't know what will be the share when the new IRP comes out. So in line with the president's plan, we need to improve the energy availability factor, especially of the units that will not be decommissioned, because we will need those going forward. However, we envisage that a more of gas and renewables will come into the space in the medium to long term. That does not mean that we need to neglect the current fleet, because the cost of not maintaining this system is way much higher than the cost of maintaining it to ensure that we reach the required energy availability factor. I think it will get to about 72%. I don't agree with the people who are saying that it will get to maybe 66%. I think it will get to about 72%, but it will take about 2 years to get there.
Talking about the decommissioning of the power plants, Professor, that clearly cannot be restored anymore. And this week, the case in point was that of the Komati power station. The decommissioning of that plant, let's use that as an example of what the just energy transition would look like. Talk to us in layman's terms there. What should we look forward to?
So with Komati, it's going to be used as an example for the just energy transition, which is basically looking at minimizing things such as job losses. And from the Komati example, we could then move to other power stations that will be decommissioned. So at Komati, I was there yesterday. The Eskom engineers did some presentations to us, telling us what will be there. So they're planning a 150 megawatt peak solar PV plant. They're planning a 600 megawatt hour battery storage facility. So for instance, the 600 megawatt hours battery storage facility, you can dispatch about 100 megawatts of energy for about 6 hours. So that's quite massive. There are other things such as your agrivoltaics, where they will grow vegetables and fish. They have a microgrid assembly plant that is already operational at Komati. They are looking at things such as SMME incubators, and part of some of the things that we have proposed as engineers and researchers that were accompanying me from various institutions was things such as your CSP, concentrating solar power, where instead of boiling water using coal, we could then boil water using the sun and then get steam from there and run one of the generators using that steam that will be produced from renewable energy. We're also looking at things such as gravity storage. So they have a smokestack that is about 260 or 250, 260 meters tall. We're looking at bringing in gravity storage systems where we can store some electricity when we have more electricity and then dispatch at a later stage. We're also looking at production of hydrogen on site using the water that they were using to cool down the systems on site. And then that hydrogen will then be fired in hydrogen gas turbines, because they still have a lot of grid capacity in that particular area. So we want to take advantage of that grid capacity. There will also be a training center for Eskom employees who will be trained in renewable energy systems, so that they can be reskilled, and then they can assist Eskom when Eskom starts to build renewable energy plants.
Professor, I wish you had a glimpse of what I'm seeing in studio here. You know, as you're explaining what the Komati power station will be used for in order to give us an example of what this just energy transition is going to look like, particularly in terms of jobs. You know, we have a floor manager here in studio. We call him Brapi. He was listening so attentively to what you're saying, because to him, this is quite interesting. And contrast that with the unions, who are very worried about job security. You are saying that part of what was presented to you at this power station as to what it is going to be used for, now that it's being decommissioned, is minimizing job losses. That talks to the retraining of the staff at Eskom. Did they tell you just how many jobs they are likely to save and instead re-employ people?
Yes. What happened is they've already sent some of the employees to other power stations, but the assembly plants that they're looking at will employ more than 300 people, Initially, the power station had less than that number. I think it was in the region of 180 to 200 people at the power station itself. So with the just energy transition, the idea is that the economy of the area, it gets revitalized, but using different systems. So things such as your manufacturing will result in a lot more jobs. I mean, with some of the manufacturing facilities that are planned for the area, they are going to employ about 300 people if those materialize. And we know that most of them will materialize because there's a lot of international funding that's coming in to assist them, to assist Eskom in terms of that particular aspect. The only area where they may not be able to save jobs is in areas such as your coal transportation. However, some of those people who are in the coal transportation sector could also be reskilled and then be redirected to other things that they can do either at the particular power station or moved to other power stations to be able to use their skills in the particular other power stations.
Professor Mamphweli, we're wrapping up now, but what you are telling us here is most certainly music to the ears of the workers who are probably very worried as to where their source of income is going to come from. But what we are very good at in this country, Professor, I don't need to tell you about this, it is plans. Plans at producing plans. We're very good at that. Government itself will tell you that implementation is the problem. So, with that said, will these plans be realized based on what you were presented with yesterday?
Yes, I can confidently say that the plans will be realized. Actually, the implementation has already started. The assembly of the microgrid has already started. I've been inside the assembly plant where they are manufacturing these microgrids. And these microgrids are going to be transported to all 9 provinces in areas that are remotely located where they don't have electricity. So they basically will be using solar energy and some wind turbines. At Stellenbosch University, we've developed some wind turbines that are going to be linked to these microgrids as they get rolled out around the country. The biggest issue is around funding. There is funding available. The main aspect will be basically around the management of that funding to ensure that the just energy transition example at Komati takes place. The training facility, for instance, Eskom has already signed an agreement with the CPUT. They have a training center called Saratech that trains artisans and technicians in renewable energy, in solar PV and wind energy. They've already signed that agreement. It's worth about 30 million rands, and we are working closely with Saratech on that at Stellenbosch University as well, in terms of training other staff members at engineers level. So I'm quite confident that this will happen, and we're busy from the various universities putting together another additional kind of a proposal that will be presented to Eskom and also to other international funders who are already saying to us, bring the proposal, we are ready to fund it. So it will happen, I'm sure.
Professor Sampson Mamphweli, I can only, this is it's an excited laugh. I'm not in any way suggesting to you that I don't believe what you are saying. So, what you are saying to skeptics is, remember the whole conversation about ghost towns? What ghost towns? So, if you believe Professor Mamphweli, you have every reason to be optimistic. Thank you very much for your time. The professor is a director of the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at Stellenbosch University.